Welcome, 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 brother. I'm so excited to be back in the Rose Garden with you. How are you today?
Wonderful. Good to see you again.
It's always good to see you. I had one of those weeks where, I was being diverted away from regular television into these channels on YouTube and Zoom. So I feel like I've been in little boxes all week long, but I couldn't wait to come in here because you're my voice of reason. And I wanted to hear what you thought of some of these alternative speeches that they were making for the State of the Union.
It's really mind blowing. I was just thinking about how you could take half of the population and you can just tell them anything and that people will embrace it. It's really, it's really a brilliant strategy, right? I'm learning a lot watching this because you don't have to be factual. You don't have to be accurate. You can just walk into a room and you can just say anything. And then some people will embrace it.
Some people
Truthfully.
will. Yeah. The psychology.
It's really brilliant. It's
It's
really brilliant.
absolutely brilliant. But when we talk about the brilliance of it all, I think we also have to really recognize the shortcomings of humans. And you know what I took away from all of this week was, many people were okay with all that's going on when it was happening to them,
Right.
the magical thems. But now that it's happening to we and me, people are really stepping back and saying, well, this ain't right. I thought you were only it was going to be the immigrants and the black
Right.
people. But now people they know, people that they can touch and maybe themselves, and they're having this kind of reaction like, but it wasn't supposed to happen to me. And I think we have a real moral issue here in this country when it is okay to see people suffer, because no matter how they half this country knew suffering was going to happen. They just didn't know they were going to be the people who were suffering. And
Yeah.
now that they're suffering, they have a different kind of experience and reaction. And that is scary and troubling about the human race. Now, as grandma used to say, all people messed up, right? She liked those individuals, you know, black people, Asian people, everybody was messed up according to grandma. But what's it's showing me is that Americans have a humanity problem and a moral issue. And that is every time I'm having these experiences, I'm like having this almost this reaction where I'm having to come to the reality that the world around us is a lot of people are morally bankrupt.
Yeah,
And
that's 100% true. I mean, it's an interesting place to a conclusion to derive because honestly, it's from all the time it's been like this though. That's where the Good Samaritan story comes from, right? Where you know somebody's broke down on the side of the road and millions of people pass them, right? They don't care about what's happening to that person. But somebody who does have a compassionate heart and maybe sees a little bit of themselves in that person decides to stop and offer assistance or whatnot. So that whole concept of people not being concerned, but we all should be concerned because we share this planet together, right? We share this space. But it is an interesting phenomenon because definitely people thought that what wasn't them, it wasn't us. Well,
what's
the
supposed to gonna not get no jobs? We supposed to be able to do it, but they weren't. Well, what's meaningful today is that we have somebody with us that really embodies the Good Samaritan story that you talk about. And he's one of us, right? We embracing him in the Rose Garden. So he's finally one of us. So I'm happy that he's here. I'd like to introduce the audience to Marcus because they don't know him like you know him. And now that I'm getting to know him, he is the CEO of IntelligIS, and he is also the founder and executive director of Bounce Back Organization, which is the embodiment of Good Samaritan and also helping others and being my brother's keeper. Marcus, welcome, welcome, welcome in the Rose Garden. We're happy you're here.
Hey, thank you. It's an honor to be in the Rose Garden. I really appreciate you. And I mean that from my heart. Being here, I mean, it's a blessing.
You bless us because, when you started, you said you're a lot like us, or my brother might have said that, where, your grandma touched your life too. Tell us a little bit about grandma.
All right. So I was born in Chicago and my mom was young. She was in school. This is the first year in college. So she couldn't take care. This is a kid having a kid. So my grandparents said, hey, we'll take him. It's our first grandchild. And she basically took me to Greenville, Mississippi. And I'm not sure if people know Greenville, Mississippi. That's the Delta. About 40 miles from where I was born is where Emmett Till got lynched. All right. So that's the Delta. The Delta is one of the poorest regions in the country. You know, you talk about poor. When you talk about blacks in Mississippi and the Delta, there's no black wealth. There's like, I'm in Atlanta, right? And Atlanta has pockets, right? You can go to a various, in like most cities now, Chicago, wherever, DC, Philly, you can go and you see pockets of rich people. In Greenville, Mississippi, there are no pockets. When I was young, I really didn't even understand, okay, what can blacks do to have money other than be on what I saw TV being again, there were a lot of not black entertainers back then. Keep in mind, it's a limited number. I'm coming up in the 70s. So it became, wow, what do I do? So I saw drug dealers. I saw us driving Cadillacs and Chevrolet Impalas and old Ford trucks. So I didn't think that we could drive Mercedes or BMWs. That was not us. I didn't see that when I was young. I didn't eat steak. When we came on a great Sunday, when we had Sunday dinner, if we had a chance to get, it was a pork chop. That was the steak for us, pork chop and gravy, right? So I learned a whole lot, you know, so what happened was being raised in Greenville, Mississippi, I did not have a good view of life when it came to me accomplishing anything. So I gravitated to like, what do I do as Marcus Wilson? How do I have the American dream? And I didn't see that there. So, you know, I went to the military, go to the Air Force, and I was in the Air Force. And, you know, I traveled all over in Persian Gulf for 13 and a half months. As you see, like, look at my LinkedIn, you know, Air Force Achievement Medal and stuff. And who I gravitated to and connected to, I became that identity. I wanted to do great for my country. I did. And I got out and came to Atlanta. Freak Nick brought me here. Right?
Oh, it brought so many. It brought,
you know, hey, Freak Nick brought me here, right? So, hey, I'm in Atlanta because of Freak Nick.
Marcus, are you in that documentary, Marcus? I'm going to look you up.
You know, I'm here, you know, so I'm, you know, say Freak Nick, I'm here, and I got, and, you know, and I, being honest, I was hanging out at some spots, and guess what? I was like, this is place for me.
Hear that?
You know, and I got connected here with the wrong people, and my life started, right? So got here, got
Where
connected.
are you in age? Where are you at this point when you coming back from the military and now you seeing Freak Nick and your eyes is open to all the wonders that Atlanta? Where are you at in age?
Remember, I'm still, you know, at that point coming back and hitting Freak Nick, I'm only maybe still 19 years old. I'm young. I went in the military at 17.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't even 18, right? So 1988, I graduated in the end of May of 1988. By August, my enlistment date was August 16th, 1988. So I'm a kid. And I got, you know, I went through basic training in Lackland Air Force Base, San Antonio, where everybody does in the Air Force. I got to Shaw Air Force Base, which is my first duty assignment.
Mm-hmm.
So thinking 13 months later, I'm in the Persian Gulf, right? You're right. So in, you know, the 90, right, early 90, right? They're like, oh, you're going to be shipped off to Operation, at that point, Desert Shield, that eventually came Storm. So I'm there, right? And obviously getting back safely. You know, now it's time to be, you know, I'm back at my duty station. And I had some friends that got out of the military. They said, hey, we're moving to Atlanta. So they invited me here, and I couldn't wait to get out of the military to come back to Atlanta. So that's why I got out in 4 years. I would have probably done 20 years, but I was so enamored with Atlanta. I was like, that's me. As soon as I can get out of the military, I'm out. And I did.
So what attracted you to the people that eventually you say led you down the wrong path?
Okay, so now you're gonna make me tell the story. Okay, I'm gonna keep it real. This is and look, hey, when you say keep it 100, all right. Oh, I was at a spot we all know, but I'm not gonna say it in the Rose Garden, right? And I saw a bunch of folks. Let's just say they were making it rain. Okay, and I said, wow, I never seen people throwing that amount of money. Us. Remember, I'm coming from Greenville, Mississippi to the Air Force. Now I'm in Atlanta in a spot, and they're throwing one like they're one. I had never seen that. That was new to me. And I said, oh my God, what do you guys do?
Well, let me tell you what my grandma would tell you, right?
Right?
She would say, don't follow a fool. Now, and I'm gonna tell you why she would say that, because if and it was me at that time, 19, and somebody was dropping hundreds on the ground like they didn't want them, I'd be collecting them in my pocket. Like, oh, let me put that in this pocket. But you said, I want to be the one throwing the money on the ground.
Absolutely.
Okay. You a little longer because I need some hundreds for research.
And so, I leave Freaknik, I get back to Shaw, and I can't wait. So, this is probably what, Freaknik, maybe what, 90, I don't know, maybe 90, 91 or something like, I can't remember, right? But 92, I got out of the military, right? So 88 to 92, I go back here and I keep up with those same people I connected. Keep in mind, no disconnect, right? I'm still talking to them. And I get here, now I show up and I'm connected, right? And I get my first job. So keep in mind, I'm working as a help desk person. I get my first temp job at IBM, right? IBM Global Services, temp job. $12 an hour, never forget. Never seen that much money because the military, remember back then I'm an E1, E2, E3, E4, got out, senior airman. I'm making $700, right? A month. So just tell you how much money that is. I had a grand damn one payment. That was one check, the car payment. The second check, right, was the insurance and anything else I wanted, like gas. The lucky part is I'm in the military. I stay in the barracks. I'm eating free. If it wasn't for that, I would have been living in the car. Right? The grand dam would have been the house too. So I had no money. So I got here and got the $12 an hour job. Back then, your apartments were $582 a month, which is not even thing close here today, right? Unless you can't even get, you can't even get the rundown place areas of the day. And I'm seeing all this stuff, right? And I got in a lot of trouble. So I'm hanging with people, and I've now absorbed their identity.
Wow.
I'm
That
all in.
That fast.
Right? Because
So
remember, that's what you do, right?
It didn't date. So, brother, this reminds me of when we were talking a few weeks ago about how when we're young, our minds are not
fully developed.
And, how easy we can be led, because those were the models that you had. And those models, did they look like success to you? Did it feel like that was success? Or did any part of your brain say at that young age there was danger happening?
I saw success.
That's that success.
I knew there was danger, but it did not override the fact that this was my way to make money. This is my way to do my thing, to give my piece of the American dream, which I did not have a clue I could do, because I did not think a whole bunch about coming from Greenville, Mississippi. I could keep in mind, I see people who are going to college. I watched my mom get a master's degree in struggle, right? She's a education. She went to Jackson State University, got a master's, and my uncle did, and they're pretty much broken. I'm seeing people, and it's funny, right? When you have to try to figure out if you want to be like the postman, right? Think about this. When you figure out if you want to be like the postman, and that's what it was. Like everybody back then, you got to you go to the post office, you're going to pay good money. You got good benefits. This is the postman, right? This is success. And I'm not trying to talk about postman jobs. I'm just saying.
I understand. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
We're not talking about being the CEO of a company or whatever. So I just did not see anything where I could say, this is what I'm going to be, because I saw people and honestly, they were broke, right? And I said to myself, nah. So how do you get out of this? That was the issue that I felt like, oh my God, what do I do? And which led me to make a lot of bad decisions, as you hear. It was just bad decision after bad decision after bad decision. And that's being honest with you, right? And it got to the point it was literally living this life knowing that was really not who I was. I was trying to be something I wasn't.
How did you reconcile that for yourself? That's not me.
Well,
it's not my purpose.
It's called going to jail. It's called going to prison. That's simple,
So wait
right?
a minute now. Jail has an effect that it can wake you up and help you find purpose, is what you're saying.
For some
Or
people, yeah.
for some people, or you keep going back, right?
Okay, what you mean? Give me more, brother. What you talking about for some people? You think there's
Well, first of all, I want to just tip my hat to Marcus and commend him for being so authentic and genuine, and opening up in this way. But I hear a couple of things in Marcus' story that can overlay on many different people, because like we said when we started out this call, like we have so many similarities, like parallels, just in terms of our backgrounds, being raised by our grandparents and the like. But I would just say that, the first thing that struck me of Marcus's story is when he was sharing about the actual financial aspects of what he was seeing in the reality at the time. And what that equates to me is like how a person first gets exposed to and learns about the value of money, right? See, for me, my story, the way I learned about the value of money was I wanted to buy, I had an objective for myself, which was, and when I go back to school, I want to buy my whole wardrobe for school. I want to buy, um, a video game. I think at the time Nintendo had just first came out and all that stuff. And then I had all these lofty ideas of what I'm gonna buy, right? And I actually did some slave labor back breaking work for a whole summer, really miserable stuff. And I was working with my grandfather, who was like a master carpenter, but we were doing like some really hard labor stuff. And I didn't spend a dime. All I did that whole summer was work out and work. From sunrise to sunset. It was hard work. And then when I finally tallied up all the money that I made, the only thing I could get was a pair of jeans. And I realized then that was I was like, wow, I worked that hard and this is really all I can buy. It's that made me start looking at, we were with our mom at the time, and I was looking at her and I was thinking like, well, how does she do it? If she got herself and then, us three kids. And from that moment on, I told myself I'm never going to ask her or anybody else for no money or anything. I never want to be a burden on one. Now, what our grandmother did, I also relate to the recurrent thing that Marcus was saying when he said about identity. And he was like, he absorbed the identity of these other folks and whatnot. Now, our grandmother, she really, when we were with her and she was raising us, she kind of exposed us to reality of life and shared all kinds of horrible stories that most people would say, you don't share these with kids. They try to still get some of the
She was a
truth and stuff.
teller. You don't listen. Don't be talking about my grandmother, the truth teller.
But she did share a lot of stories with us. So she kind of had us terrified, like, of what could happen out there, right? Like, say somebody was involved in selling drugs and then they owe somebody. And then that person came and they did all types of horrendous stuff to get that money back. So, she got us afraid to do stuff. So when we were with our mother and I had come to that realization of the value of money, I decided, well, I'm not going to ever ask anybody for, any money or whatnot. I don't want to be a burden. So I try to do all sorts of things I could do at that time as a kid, like wash cars, cut grass, shovel snow, do all this stuff. And I realized, man, there's no money in this. Like, I'm working really hard. And, so when we were talking about how when you're young, your mind is like, you kind of empirically putting together what the truth of life is, what reality is, right? So at that time with my undeveloped brain, I was like, all these people that's out here working, they foolish because you can't expect this.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then, the other thing for us is that, our home was like the neighborhood haven. Like, everybody was running through it because we didn't have supervision, no parents there, whatnot. Our house was like the neighborhood hangout for everybody. So, we met all of the people that was movers and shakers in the street life.
No. Let me tell you what they're called. My grandma would call them. We met all rats. And what we would say is y'all over there living like y'all living in a rat hole. So we was hanging with rats. when we was
Well, I didn't feel like that to us though, because like they were our compadres in the reality that we were sharing, and that we were all doing things to take care of each other. So I remember that, there was some times when none of us had the whole neighborhood, nobody had no money, right? But we were like in the summertime and we'd be trying to take care of each other. So, some people go to the store and steal, some people come back with the food that they stole, and then, we might cook it out and all that stuff. We have a grand old time at that time, right? But there was some people, like you said, they were involved in drugs and everything, but they were like people that kind of were looking out for us. They were like our extended brothers and family and friends. So, it started, when I saw it from that perspective, I started thinking, well, maybe it's not that bad, right? Because, our grandmother had already put the fear of God in us on this. So I was like, well, I said, I had that aspect of it, like, a healthy concern about what could happen. But I also, embraced by the brotherhood of the folks that are in the game. But that kind of attracted me to it. And then when I got involved in it, money started flowing in. And see, now, like psychologically at that age, anything that's involved in the cash business makes you feel like it's a lot coming in. Right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
That's why, like, females, like to me, I think like females that doing the exotic dancing and stuff, they like what drug dealers are to us, because they in the, they doing stuff, they get like they getting that cash money, and you start thinking like, oh yeah, I can get anything off this now. You know what I mean? Right. But then to Marcus's point, our grandmother used to always tell us, oh, there's only two ends in that, it's either death or you going to jail. And definitely, inevitably, one of those conclusions happens to people in that life. And I consider being incarcerated the lesser of the two.
Yeah,
Right?
because you're still here.
Yeah, no doubt. But definitely being incarcerated is the closest thing to being dead that you can experience, because it's like, your actual real life is on pause, and you get to see the effect of what your life has resulted to by how people are treating you while you're there.
Right. Absolutely.
Brother Marcus was saying that was enlightening though. So let's hear from Marcus about how it flipped him and made him it grow. So something happened. I want to hear.
Now, I want to go back. I think Xavier brought some good points about upbringing. Now, keep in mind one thing I tell you about the Delta. What you have to really understand, the Delta with grandparents, or I never had my dad. My dad got killed when I was young, so I never really knew him. So the guidance of a father, I never had. My granddaddy was there, but he was older. He couldn't raise. I'm young. My grandmother barely could keep up, right? And my granddaddy passes and my dad dies. So I remember, it's like burying this person I don't really know, right? Because it's never in my life. And, when you keep living, those things, they say you need both your parents for reasons. And I'm trying to figure things out with identity because I don't know me. Nobody's really trying to help me tell who I am. And, I go to the military and I absorb. And I think of the military, I'm getting the medal, the humanitarian medal we go to the military, go overseas, and this is achievement medal. Then in Hurricane Hugo hits in Sumter, South Carolina, which is where Shaw Air Force Base, right? We get a humanitarian medal for doing all the work in the community. So but then I get out, and remember, I see that one thing, and I move towards them. And now I'm one of them. So I'll go from serving my country, and I'm one of them, to I'm out here in the streets, and now I'm one of them. And I'm going to work every day at IBM, and I'm at night, and I'm hanging out all night with them. I don't know who I am, right? So I get in trouble. I'm doing time, and I'm in prison. I'm the same thing. I don't know who I am. I'm still trying to figure things out, right? And in prison, I'm still trying to figure out what I did wrong, not did wrong. How did I get caught? You feel me?
Yeah, I do.
How can I get out and do better, right?
And
That's what
not
I'm
get
thinking.
caught. That's what
Right.
you were thinking.
So I never thought about you're in here because you did wrong. I'm in here because you didn't get. Hey, remember, people do wrong every day. They just don't get caught.
That's
People
right.
doing wrong
You
right
know
now.
what you're going to introduce. I'm tickled by this conversation because I'm telling you, there's no part of my brain, no part of Syretta's soul no part of her core functioning that this makes sense to me. But because I,
What part doesn't make sense?
no, there's no,
Because it's all with me.
well, I'm learning a lot about y'all. And I'm learning that there is an alternative to this, in that one thing about us as the human entity is we are designed to survive, right? This is why I'm very interested in your stories, because I want to know, like, when did your spirit say, you know, I need to change and do something better? Because danger is always like, what grandma taught us was like, if you go down and be with the rats, there really are two options. And both of you say jail is like death. So to me, I'm a group death and jail as I've died.
Pretty much.
And the human condition suggests that we want to live. I just told you that the brain, everything about us as humans, our brain, it is designed to make me live. So then I'm going to make decisions that are aligned with living.
Let me help enlighten this thing a little bit, man. Maybe this
line is what I'm telling.
Right, because so the conclusion of ending up in those locations is the outcome, right? It's like you reaping what you sow. But the journey, there's a lot of perks in the journey, though. You know what I'm saying? So, like, if you didn't get caught, so this is why I can see why Marcus was saying, well, it's like, right. So, you know how some people can say this, right? If they have done wrong and they really are sorry about it, they're remorseful about the wrong they did, right? It's a difference of doing wrong, being remorseful about the wrong you did versus doing wrong and being sorry for conclusion, the outcome you got the place from.
Right, I got taught.
Because I would say that, from what I observe in Marcus, I see a lot of myself in this story. Like we could wipe out the face of the name and we'd be identical with it, right? But I would say that if we felt like it was wrong to begin with, we probably wouldn't do it. And the reason why it don't seem wrong is because it's not, like, out of all the things a person could do out there in the streets, right? Commoditizing something that people are going to already do and get involved in doesn't seem as wrong as robbing someone. You know what I mean? So this would make you say, like, well, I'm not, I might be doing wrong. I might be coloring outside the lines, but I'm still not morally bankrupt, though. Right?
Right.
And this might be the story we telling ourselves or whatever when we're not looking at the full picture, right? But then also, like when you get into the environment, like Marcus is saying, because Marcus, I would say, like, one of my developmental I would say detriments is identity as well, right? Because when we were growing up with our grandmother, she had us protected and safe and secured all. But it was the same way as yours. It was in a very rural, set off place, and she and her husband were older, and but still, she had a lot of energy, and she was the primary, like, disciplinary and all this stuff, and she was the one that was impacting us the most with psychologically. But I'm saying all that to say that, when we went back with our mother, it was totally different. We had zero parenting. I had no older brothers, no father, nothing. So now we completely, basically, being raised by the street and on our own, and trying to raise each other as kids, right? With no kind of guidance and all this stuff. In this, I'm having identity issues, and I'm telling you that one of the reasons why me personally I had an identity issue was because where my grandmother had us in one way, she also in her family had people that was in the lifestyle, and they were coming around us, but she was trying to restrict their exposure to us. It wasn't we were never in their environment, but they would come to us, and then she would be telling us stuff like, that's a jailbird, and look, this one
I
is,
remember that word.
but they were men. To me, they were men that I wasn't exposed to, because I was the only boy, and I had two sisters, and then my grandmother, and then her husband, my grandfather. But my grandfather was really quiet, and he had to do work all the time and all that. So just me seeing these other men come around, and they were bigger men, because I'm a little boy now. At this time I'm a little boy, skinny and all this stuff. And these are full grown men. And then, I'm hearing my grandmother say, you don't ever want to do what they do because, this type of stuff. Like, basically, you can't do it. You wouldn't survive in that world. You wouldn't handle it. So psychologically, as a man, I'm getting this competitive stuff in my mind. And I'm like, man, ain't no other man better than me. So I kind of felt like I got this thing in my mind where I had to prove to myself I could do it. Like, I could thrive in this world. I could survive in that world. Even if I wanted to go down that dark path, that I could make it. And then, like you said, when I started coming into stumbling blocks, I was think back and I'm like, damn, if I could hit the rewind button, take back I got 10 minutes, I'd have done this thing a little bit different. And then the other thing is when you compact a whole bunch of now men, because I consider like the like the detainment system, like a campus, it's kind of like a college campus that we all going through. A lot of us are sharing this shared story. But what happens in that is, like, a dude from DC will meet a dude from Chicago, will meet a dude from Dallas, and meet a dude from New York, and all of them plugged in. We sharing the stories, and now, but you basically are making the thing worse. Because now, it's like, seriously, like going to a university and you like, man, he graduated from MIT with the thing, but I was down at Harvard. And let me tell you what we're doing at Harvard here. And when we get out, we connected. We all connected. Yeah. And then you're saying like, oh, I see. I made that mistake. Next time I hit this, it's not going to be like that anymore. I'm going to blow this thing all the way out the wall.
Robert, when does the growth occur? I'm seeing the institutionalized lesson. I'm seeing the learn.
Absolutely.
I'm seeing the identity crisis. I'm seeing all of these things that are undernourished, brought you there. Now I want to see the regrowth. Give me, how does the plant grow? And then you all become these CEOs. And so you said it was jail. You said something happened in jail. So what was it that happened in jail that said, this is where I'm going?
So like Brother Xadean, he says, right, when you're in there, you're plugging in and you're learning. And then, but there are these brothers, they've been there for a long time. They've done 25 years. And again, remember, I told you about identity. So I grew up in prison. Those were my teachers, right? Older men who had done 20, 25 years. That's who taught me. That's who said, hey, you don't have to come back in here if you keep thinking like that. You did not come in here to learn to do crime better. You came in here to do your time and get out and move on with life. And until you hear that, until someone really imparts that into you, I was ready to get out and do wrong again. I had already made my mind, like, brother, he said, hey, you plugged in. I know people next to me. My boy's Miami. He's moving all type of weight. He's from Miami. We called everybody. You either was slim, short, black, whatever. You know the deal, right? You go to the yard. You know what I'm saying? Hey, I'm just giving you keeping it real, right? You at the yard. Look, put some water with it when you use the bathroom. You know what I mean, right? Yeah. So these are all the things, and you learning that stuff, right? And you get it. You keep in mind, coming from where I came from, I don't know success. So I'm like, okay, so what am I going to do? That's why I didn't go to college. I could have gone to any school I want. I was great in school. I didn't want to go to school. For what? I see what happens when you go to school. You're broke, right? Why do I want your master's degree and you driving a hoopty?
I got you.
Right?
I got you.
Yeah, I don't want it, right? So I see the rims and the gold rims and the, you know what I'm saying, and the woofers, the back of the day with the Alpine, with the Rockford Falls gates out and all that, right? Here's the day, you don't see them rolling around. I had the hooves in the back. You know what I'm talking about, right? With the tweeters, right? So that's the game. That's success.
You see your gifts, though, because from what I hear in this is that underlying all of this were real meaningful gifts, because to have a street business, there are some real gifts and skills that you are using that can certainly play into
what we do today,
right, to what you do.
100%.
So
absolutely.
Did you ever say, I need to operate in my purpose? Did you look at those gifts? Because look what those gifts are now. I mean, I get to know you, and my first introduction to you was an email that said, "I got to study for this exam, sis. I can't wait because I have to
You know,
put kind of effort into that."
when you okay, so you walk out, and just give you, I walked out, and I didn't. What really hit home was I didn't have really anywhere to stay. So I walked out, and I didn't get into a halfway house. I was released, and I had the outfit that my uncle had sent me. Right, I'll never forget. I had a jogging suit on. I walked out, and I have nothing but the $90 that you get from the book. So I'm at the Atlanta bus station for almost 2 days, and I'm there, and I'm using the telephone, and I'm trying to find a place to stay because I don't want to go back. I don't want to go back to Mississippi to my mom because now I'm a complete failure, and I can't just go back to mom. I mean, I don't have a dad. I didn't have a brother or sister. I have a sister, but I didn't know her then. So I have nowhere to go. So I'm in Atlanta, and I'm calling around, and somebody, Earl Johnson, never forget, he said, man, he worked with me at IBM. I called him up. I said, hey, man, I need a place to stay. I got another 24 hours to go report to the parole office, and I don't have an address. Can I just use your address? And he said, no, man, I'm going to come get you and put you, and you're going to stay with me. So he put me in with his family. And he said, I'm going to use your military, those Air Force skills you had, and I'm going to teach you IT. And you were back in IBM. Remember, keep in mind, when I got in trouble, I was help desk for IBM. So he just said, I'm going to elevate your skill set. So my first certification was after being in his basement every single day. I was a commercial apprentice electrician. I was making $7.50 an hour at that time. I go back and forth and go back to the basement and get in what is called the lab. That's why I always loved my lab, right? I would get in the lab, and the lab back then was a server with some network cards, with some cables that I could connect, right? That back in the day, people don't even really remember Novell, right? So back then, you installed Novell with disk, and it took forever. And please, my God, don't have a bad one, right? You got to start from scratch, right? So this is how I learned. I got my first certified Novell administrator certification, and it took off from there. And when 9/11 hit, so now I'm in corporate, and I got a chance I was blessed to get jobs because there's a checkbox that wasn't there back then. Have you been convicted of it? That wasn't there. So I got a chance to work for NCR, which would be bought by AT&T, right? Global Information Services, before they got spun back off again. And I would start my career until 9/11. After that hit, everybody checked, that box showed up. So now everybody's doing background checks. So how IntelligIS came about? IntelligIS came about not from me wanting to be the CEO of a tech company. That came from desperation. I wish I could tell you the truth and be like, lie to you and say, oh man, I had a vision of being a CEO and I was going to be a tech company. I was trying my best not to fail, not to be a complete, absolute failure. And when you show up at their door and they say, no, we can't hire you. And you got all these certs. No, your background. You know that you're in trouble. So I started doing stuff on my own, working on my own, doing side jobs, and it continued to grow. And, obviously today you get a chance, and we don't really talk about numbers and stuff. But to have a person come from the prison system to then build a multi-million-dollar tech firm with no knowledge of, when you talk about standard business, I didn't go to a standard business class. I don't have an MBA, right? I didn't know how to read P&L statements and balance sheets. I do today, right? Because I've learned. You have to. But that was all trial and error. That was all just my determination of just saying, hey, I don't want to be a complete, absolute failure. And knowing my journey coming out, losing my mom, she was 48. So when I got out, I would lose her shortly afterwards. So now I'm a kid. Now I don't have my dad. I just lost my mama. She's 48 to uterine cancer. Things got serious with me. And it's like, I'm now by myself. And I got to make better decisions. And that's been my life, right? I've never had anything easy. Nothing. There's nothing has come easy. I've never had, no, it's been hard work. It's been staying up all night to get certs. It's been working the dirtiest jobs. It's been being called a felon. It's being called a failure. It's being having doors being closed in and no's, and sometimes hell no, right? Right? You get me? So
I got
I don't take anything for granted. Anything I get, I consider it a blessing and an honor just to be here, to have this conversation. It's a blessing and honor, and I consider it as such, right? I take nothing for granted. Period.
Man,
bounce back come around for you.
Bounce back is the journey through everything, understanding what I went through. God puts in your heart, you got to do it back to somebody, right? And then it becomes one person, and you say, hey, man, I can help you. Then it becomes a second person. Then it becomes a third person, right? And then it's in your heart, you say, hey, that one person said you can bounce back from this, right? So then it becomes a name. Then it becomes a mission. Then you start to realize your purpose. So now I'll leave it down, say this. I now knew that IntelligIS was God's restoration for my life when it comes to financial and restoring me back to a thriving member of society. But that wasn't the big deal. That wasn't what it was about. What it was about was bounce back. That was my purpose for life, right? So I had the restoration, but that wasn't my purpose.
I
Bounce
get you
back
on that.
is.
I feel you, man, 100% on everything you said. Like, honestly, first of all, I commend you, man, for it because it's definitely a blueprint for success. And then first of all, I was thinking too that, when you think about the skill set that you learned, right, through the journey, because I think definitely, you get equipped with how to run a business, like all aspects of it, right, through some of the street life stuff that we exposed to. You know what I mean? You learn marketing, you learn sales, you learn supply chain,
Absolutely.
consumer
Absolutely.
service, you learn all this stuff, right?
What you get?
You learn the game that people run on you, all this stuff. So I feel you on that. I mean, and just talking about like the pivotal turning points, right? I think, the way that you described it is basically, when you've endured enough pain, and like some people call it like being hitting rock bottom. And, rock bottom is different for a lot of different folks, but, waking up to the reality that you don't have anybody but yourself, you know what I mean? And then reclaiming the accountability of your own life, knowing that, it's my decisions, my choices that led me here, And my own personal walk, man, it's like I say, it's a lot of parallels, it's a lot of similarities. But I remember, I had this experience where me and this dude was, we were going through that system and we had the it was just like God gave me a mirror, with a whole nother human being that was just like me. Right? And, while we going through this experience, I'm sad and depressed. I'm like you said, man, I'm like, man, my life is over. I done made a bad turn. This is horrible, right? Me and that dude, we there for the same reason, all that. And he was smiling, upbeat, like, what the hell are you smiling about? This whole thing's terrible. You know what I mean? I hear him say, when I get on the block, I'm gonna do this. I'm a program. I'm gonna do this. That program, I'm gonna cut my time in half. I'm gonna do this thing, and I'm gonna get out in like a few months. And I was like, that's bullshit. There's no way you get out here like that, So while I'm wallowing in all my sadness and depression, homeboy is getting it in, doing everything he said he was gonna do. Sure enough, all of it worked. And right then and there, I looked at myself and I said, the difference between him and I is mindset. His mindset is on some. Nah, I got myself here, but I'm gonna get myself out, and I'm gonna be actively making and all this stuff. And I was like, that was a great lesson that I learned in that situation. And also, when I felt the pain of not having nobody and not having support and all this stuff, I realized, damn, I ain't trying to do that myself. I'm not trying to do myself like this. But then, when you start getting exposure to another world, another way of being, because I would say like those stories that you share with us, they're like lifetimes. You know, you had the lifetime when you was living in Mississippi, then you had your lifetime in being exposed in the Air Force, and then a lifetime after that, right? And now you whole another lifetime. So it was like that for me too. And I feel like, you know, as men being in these experiences and situations, like we were all raising each other in various ways. And somebody that's seen some potential in you put their hand out and expose you to the lab, like you said, and everything. I think like people did that with me in my life, you know what I mean? And it was like sometimes when I fell down this like a deep hole, like a deep abyss, like when I thought I made a very rad turn, and man, I felt like I was in the bottomless pit, like I'm super falling, right? And then when I get there, I realized that, you know, it was really like a door in there that I could, if I searched around, it'd be a door I could just simply walk out of it. You know what I mean? Because you know how sometimes you dealing with something and you're just wondering like, well, what am I going to do now? You know, what I'm going to do next, and how am I going to build and all this stuff. And I realized soon as your mindset changed, like the opportunities opened up. And like you said, that box that you checked, like I see how like that's a a a, a barrier for a lot of people, and it keeps them from being able to move beyond it. But what we found is the loophole, which is, you know, what I mean, where like when you got the business thing, like, you know, there's no, the background check ain't there no more because people are really looking at you based on the capabilities of what you're going to
Absolutely.
be offering and stuff. So yeah, but I mean, what you said about the real purpose, which I really agree to as well, is now I had the benefit of going to this little event, right? I got a homeboy now who is a minister of a Christian church. And he just asked me, you know, as a friend to go with him because he was doing a session with a group of young men. And I just went along to support him. And when I go to this place, you know, the young men are the new age generation or whatever, right? So when I walk in this room, they all look soft to me. You know, they're like square dudes and everything. So I said to myself, like, man, ain't nobody in here like me. So I just sat off in the corner and was literally like metaphorically popping popcorn, observing everybody, right? So my homeboy goes to the front of the room and it's a whiteboard there. And he starts writing on the board. It's only 2 questions. Question number 1, what is a man? And now I looked around the room. I want to see what these dudes say. Well, these dudes, they want to say all the things that you hear man say, but they beat their chest like, oh, the man is the leader. He's the head of household. He's this, and that. And I was thinking, man, I wasn't expecting y'all to say that. So now I'm really intrigued. So now the second question was, how did you learn it? And now I'm paying attention. All of them said the same thing. They all learned it from an example. And ever since that experience happened, I realized, I was like, you know what? You know, with men in this world, especially the way that we were raised, where we didn't have the direct lineage of guidance for us, we get raised the wrong way because the examples that they had, they were all over the place. When they said examples, it was like, my example was, you know, a cartoon character. You know, I like Wolverine, and I model myself after Wolverine. Or man, my hero was like Kobe Bryant, so everything he did, I did. You know what I mean? So like these examples came from all over the place, and I realized like that's the type of thing we was doing as men. Like we would, you know, pick somebody that we really respected, and those characteristics of that man became the ideal we had in mind. And then now, if we didn't have those same type of qualities that man had, then we felt, like you said, you start feeling like a failure. You know what I mean? So I would say like sometimes some of these role models, they could be like a star in a movie, right? And the lead man in every movie is knocking out all the bad chicks in the movie or whatever. So now when you got this idea of this Manny of mine, you know, that could just even really be the character in the movie. Like it could be like the Django. You like Django, right? And here it is now. You be thinking like, well, I don't got no chicks, so I'm not really I'm not a man then, because I'm not I'm not meeting up to that metric. And these things, these small little, like I say, subtle impacts move you in a certain type of direction, right? But then when you, one of the things that happened with me also is like the message I got, it was also another mirror. So, when I had the benefit of being able to go to like a tech school or whatnot, and I had a roommate in there, and that dude was totally night and day different from me. And when I looked at that situation, I saw that his life was slow and gradual, but it was on like a incline, So he was a very square dude, did everything all right and all this stuff, and but step by step, it was like incrementally going up, right, for him. For me, my life was like a roller coaster. Like I super high with my baseline zero, I was going way below zero and then coming way back up, right? So when I was looking at that, I was thinking like, damn, these lows are really, really low. Even though when I'm on the high, like the highs are good, but the low hard, right?
Yeah.
Yes, maybe it'd be better because if I'm looking at him, he never goes below zero. You know what I mean? So I was like, yeah, the goal is not to go on the zero. So I said, I need to start trying to evaluate. So that's when I started, like, I could see, like, in that moment, my decision making changed because I would look at it and I'll say, I'm a risk taker and he's not, right? So I could take a risk, but it can't be a stupid risk, right? So I got to make it to where I'm always on this gradual upswing and not going down. So without those little bit of mirrors that happened, I could, because I also was 10 toes bought in that there was only one way to make it. And those were around the times when our examples were like Scarface and stuff like that. Like, the Scarface movie came out, and then I still see this in my mind because I saw Scarface while I was a little kid. It was this one little point in there where he saw the blimp, across the sky, and it said, "The world is yours." And then all after that, they started showing like him towing up with the money thing and all that stuff. And I was like, that's the only way to get it. And when I saw Scarface, I was like, I want to be that dude Sosa. I want to be Sosa and Scarface. And that was my only aim. My mind is zeroed in on that. And
Well,
like,
thanking God that you changed your mind, because between the two of you, there's so much greatness in this room and in this experience. What we are all hearing today is the power of redemption. But I think there's a couple things that I think it's important to highlight that, our social experience do not necessarily have to dictate our futures. I loved how Marcus started off the conversation saying, I didn't have a lot. The Delta is poor and everybody poor. But, being poor of mind does not mean poor of spirit. And that both of your spirits are just filled with so much hope and prosperity. Both of you are successful CEOs who have created experiences for yourself, and not just yourself, but for others. I do have one question for Marcus before we go into the last kind of 5 minutes of this is how many people have you reached through your Bounce Back organization?
I can't tell you because remember, when you get a chance to speak, think about the people you help versus the people you reach. Here, hopefully somebody's listening. And if they've been to prison or wherever, incarcerated, record, doesn't matter, right? Think about the amount of people you reach by speaking. And I usually didn't speak about that because it's not something going to prison. We're in IT. It's not, nobody really wants to talk about prison, right? Nobody wants to talk about where they've been. So I've learned, like, when you speak to somebody, you open up. Yes, somebody may judge you, but you never know who you're going to turn their life around. And they're going to say, man, I really appreciate that because I now see something different. And I think that's what it boils down to. I can't worry about, they talked about, you can't worry about people. People are going to always have people. I see people say, I don't like a person. You don't even know them. So you didn't even know the person to talk to them. So I just learned be the best person I can be. When I get an opportunity to help somebody, I will, and over the years, I can't tell you how many people I paid for their training out of my own pocket. We're not talking about, I don't have no grants. I'm operating as the grant. And that's what you can do, man. You do your brother Xadean. Well, here's the beautiful thing about he can hire anybody he wants, despite what their background is.
Yes.
That's
Right.
the power that people don't see is when he became a CEO, he's the authority in this company.
Right.
And he can hire and he can give second chances, third chances. It doesn't matter, right? Because he's in the position to do so. So more of us should be in these positions to where we can truly help other people. And on my thing, that's what I do, right? I never look at anything like, hey, I don't, like I said, I don't take anything for granted. Anything I get, something new, I know where I've come from. And what pushes me, and people get scared of is, what pushes me is fear. I don't want to go back,
Yeah.
right? Somebody,
Yeah.
oh, you want to get to the next level? No, I don't want to go back to where I was, right? I'm just keeping it real, right? I'm being, so to speak, 100, right? Somebody say, oh man, I know everything now. No, I'm scared. I don't want to go back. I already know how it feels,
You're not
right?
a Lord Marcus. You don't need to touch that twice.
So I don't need to go back, right?
Some people like that though. Be honest, they got to touch it a couple times.
I'm good, right? I'm good, right?
Hey, but fear is an excellent motivator, man.
Yeah.
I honestly think it is. And, I totally agree, man. All it really does take is one, that you reach just one. I think if you do that, you've done something tremendous. And I think just for human beings, the way we work, again, it's just examples, right? And our lives epitomize it. And when other people can look at it, they can say, if he's done it, I can, And I think as long as we continue to walk on that, man, and then do the same things that we've been doing, which is trying to elevate people in similar situations, because we got empathy and compassion for them, because we know that journey. But we also got a blueprint to get to where we are right now. You can start me again at the beginning. I could get right back to this place again. So I feel like we really are fundamentally blessed, man. And I thank you, Marcus, because thank you for sharing this story with us, because it's definitely
It's a necessary one. It's inspiring, and we need to speak these truths because I do think people need to hear more of our successes. And you know what? These experiences are not embarrassments. I'm very proud of my brother. He's always been, even when I was little, he was the apple of my eye because he was the one right ahead of me. But he also was really, really intelligent. He's probably one of the most intelligent people that I know. And so there are many lessons, even quiet lessons that, his experiences have taught us. One of endurance, one of hope, one of mindset change. So there's so much influence that he has, even just by his presence. And Marcus, now by extension, since my brother has introduced you to me, you're that example for me. So I'm just overwhelmed and blessed to have spent this time with you. Every time we end, Marcus, we highlight a Black business. And so since we got a Black business owner here, we're going to highlight your business. For those of you who are trying to reach Marcus and his wonderful colleagues, he can be reached via email, via the internet at www.IntelligIS, IntelligIS.com. And also you can follow him at bounceback.org to see all the work that he's doing for our returning citizens, those individuals that need those second, third, maybe fourth times. So we thank you so much for hanging out with us in the Rose Garden, Marcus.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It hopefully we'll have you again for other experiences, that you have. And listen, now that Freaknik is gone, all of us the same go to Atlanta, and I desire to move to Atlanta, so it ain't gonna rope me in like it roped you in.
Freaknik is the only time you can jump in anybody's car who you don't know and show up on the other part of town and you don't even know how you got there. Look, you just park in the middle of the road, jump out and go get in somebody else's car and take off.
Hey, the times we had back then, I don't think it'll never be like that again.
It was dangerous. It was actually it was absolute danger. Now we were in dangerous situations, and I've always been a cautious human. Me and my brother are very different in that, I don't ride roller coasters, don't get on rides. He was dipping and I was looking at him like, okay, let that fool dip. So I'll tell you what, I did go to Freaknik one time and I didn't get nobody's cars. I was more of,
well, I was in the cars.
I looking into the fullest of Marcus.
Look, I was in the cars.
It turned
Didn't even know whose
like
car.
round.
Didn't even know whose car I
Marcus
was
like,
in.
I was like,
Didn't even know whose car I was in. I was in there.
you have to rewind the documentary. I'm convinced, Marcus, you in it because
I'll tell you, it is what it is.
Like I said, Margaret's story is really powerful in terms of resiliency and resourcefulness and all of that stuff. And once, man, as sharp as iron, as they say.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Just, I feel really privileged and honored to be able to be connected with you. And as you know, we collaborating business wise too.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So we trying to. Marcus has been a godsend in that kind of a way. He's been able to augment our capabilities, and we've been able to pull through and do things together. And looking forward to doing some bigger and better things.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I appreciate you even for that because we've been talking right in the Microsoft, the Black Partner Growth Initiative, and we're focused on. We're together. We see the same thing. That's why we got the kindred spirits, right? We connected automatically with Kyle. We said, hey, me and him got the same vision.
Yeah, that's
Nobody
right.
else might. We get it because of where we come from.
That's right.
We get
That's
it, right? So it's very straightforward. I know I can't do everything by myself, right? So to have and be collaborating with to me, is power.
I totally agree.
Power.
It definitely is. I mean, all you got to do is look at the landscape politically right now, and you can see that. I was thinking that these people are draining the well, but what they mean by draining the swamp. But their lingo on the draining the swamp really means draining the finances, right? Because I caught on the news that the Supreme Court was trying to rule for them to pay the contractors what they have already delivered on, right? Which is right. It's the right thing to do. But they're going to say they had to do that. The Supreme Court said they had to do this within 36 hours. So these people say that ain't enough time. Now it's wild because this money has already been allocated for.
yeah.
What that tells me is they done stole them.
They done stole it. And they done strong on, what's that called, brother? Kind of robbery.
Yeah, that's what.
Yeah, you got that.
They done jacked the American government.
They did. They robbed from the American people. That's why they put a freeze on it. Yeah, the
freeze on right
now. And they done drained the money, and they talking about they don't have it. It's not enough time to get it. So that's crazy. They went in there, and I was trying to figure out how did they do this? And then I said, like, well, this is the first time in my life I ever thought a felon could be.
Oh, and we are closing out the rose. Till next time.
I appreciate it. Hey, man, and thank you. This has been a blessing. I hope to be invited again. And thank you for allowing us to speak candidly and be real and authentic and just be yourself and not be scripted, not like have a sheet of paper to go through and not be like, oh, you can't. No, speak from your heart because you can really touch somebody when you're being genuine and honest.
I totally.
Till next time in the Road Garden. See y'all later.
Yeah, right.
Good kid. Bye for now.